Test. All right. Um, well, this is a typical AABA tune, and the challenge and the trick for tunes like this and rhythm changes, well, there's just millions of tunes written in this AABA form, is to identify what the B is, the bridge. Because as you cycle through this, depending on the place, you've just heard 3 A sections in a row. And so to make that bridge happen is a real key. That's a real nice place, a nice goal to shoot for. And quite often the bridge will be contrasting in some way. Either the melody is rhythmically different, or more often than not, the chord structure is a little bit different in a bridge. And this tune is no different. The A sections are generally in a G minor, or I'm sorry, my key, in an F minor kind of a flavor, and it ends in C major. But the bridge changes to B flat major, and then G major. It changes keys. There's dramatically different notes involved with the chords and scales that are in the bridge than are in the A section. So those are the things you want to, when you're working up a tune, identify, well, what's different? You know, what happens in the bridge harmonically that does not exist anywhere else? And I want to really kind of lay for that to make sure that to bring some variety to this. The other thing that I'd like to point out, and our pianist was doing this really nicely, is this music and other things like it, other standards, are built in 4-measure phrases grouped together to make 8-measure phrases, 4 and 8 measures. And the improviser will either play, it just sort of falls into that kind of a groove where you're just playing 4 measures, take a breath, another 4 measures, take a breath. Maybe we'll do 8 measures this time, take a breath, another 4 measures. You know, it just becomes very predictable because of the way that the tune is composed. That's where those magical 2-5-1s lie, and so we practice our little 2-5-1 patterns, and we know how to plug them in. But all of that stuff always starts on 1 or at the beginning of a measure, and it begins to be somewhat predictable and kind of. Why isn't this very interesting, you know? But if we understand that as a challenge, it's very easy to just think of, okay, the bridge is coming up. I'm going to stop playing for a second, take the horn off my face, and know that the bridge is coming up. And maybe 3 beats before the bridge starts, I'm going to play a lead in to the bridge, rather than finish my typical 8-measure thing and then start right on beat 1 of the bridge. That kind of thing is something that is called playing across the bar, and that's something that Clifford Brown was just a genius at. And it's just simple as taking the 3-note pickup, bo-do-ba-da, you know, into the bridge or something like that. Will all of a sudden set you into a different place, and it breaks the mold of always playing patterns and scales how you've practiced them. And it's a hard thing to do. But I guarantee that once you start doing that, it opens up a whole bunch of doors. From a technical standpoint, the big problem with Hot House, or what is this thing called Love, is that it deals with primarily, well, a lot of the A section is dealing with these things called minor 2-5s. And minor 2-5s are built, there are 2-5-1 chords, which is a super popular, important chord structure. But these deal with the minor version of it rather than the typical major version. And so there are different scales involved. You get into the world of diminished, and you can get into the world of whole tone a little bit, and some more of the exotic, like harmonic minors and things like that. And it's very, very cool. I remember when I was really just getting exposed to what this whole 2-5-1 business was all about, and my teacher was just, you know, really, really hard on me to learn my Dorians and then my Mixolydians, the minors in major and the dominants in major. I spent years doing this, and I felt like I was finally starting to get a handle on it. And he said, okay, now we're going to start all over again and do it in the minor world. And it just felt like, oh man, it's like this is never ending. It's all starting all over again, because it's a whole different set of scales and rules. And the rules are pretty much the same. 2 goes to 5, 5 goes to 1. But Dorian does not work in this tune very well. And the Dorian is what we live on in like any other tune. So that's one of the big challenges with this, is to learn some of those exotic notes, like the flat 5s and the flat 9s, sharp 9s, and those kinds of things. Did you guys have anything you wanted to mention?
Yes.
Oh, you did. Oh, great.
Let us all now sing a song in praise of predictability. Okay, and here's the reason why. You can't get to level 14 until you've gone through levels 3, 4, 5, blah, blah. And those levels are a little on the predictable side. So if you're playing predictable music, that means you have control. That means you know what note of the chord goes on the strong beat and what note of the scale that's not part of the chord goes on the weak beat, whether you're playing eighths or quarters or sixteenths. And then, once you sound really square and predictable, that means you've got the shape of this piece right in the palm of your hand. But until you've got that, it's going to be tough to do the wonderful suggestion that Dave is talking about, where instead of playing on the chords, Dave is talking about playing to the chord. So before you embark upon that, deconstruct, lovely new word, right? You know, the first arpeggio and the second chord. Play some very nice, clear, basic, small thing, and then play it, 2 inversions, and see how much control you can get over the basic material. And you'll be ready to play to that spot instead of on that spot.
That's an excellent point. It's along those lines. I mean, I apologize for feeling like I did kind of skip a few steps here, but when looking at a tune for the first or 6th time, it's really smart to be able to, when you're practicing it by yourself. I mean, aerosols are good for us horn players, but I hardly ever. I use them like as a when I feel like I'm completely ready to play the tune. I use them as not a last resort, but that's like the final step in my quote-unquote preparation. Up until that point, I'm doing stuff very, very differently with different purposes. And what I would suggest is for to look at a tune like this and be able to know what the 3rd and 7th is of every chord. Yeah, well, you can look at the page and you can say, yeah, okay, that's C and E flat, and that's B flat and E. Okay, I get it. But then turn on a metronome and play half notes: 3rd, 7th, 3rd, 7th, 3rd, 7th, like that. And when you're forcing yourself to move on time into very key points, that helps really identify, okay, what are the money notes of the particular chord? What are the things that I really definitely need to understand? The roots are there; those are given, and they're played by the bass and piano usually, and everybody else. Those are kind of the last resort notes, or maybe final notes you think about. But if you understand the 3rds and 7ths as a starting point for the tunes, that'll really help also outline what's going on. And quite often, if you do that, if you just resort to just that, you're going to hear the melody actually, because a lot of the good melodies have that there anyhow.